Zoom account to make the Generation Change International Conference. I'm seeing that people are still going in, and I see that we have not all the speakers on the panel. So we'll be waiting a few minutes before we start. So I just wanted to let you know that we are here. So please just wait there a few minutes before we start. We have an amazing panel of speakers today, which all of them are amazing and brilliant young women that are fighting so hard for a better future. They are literally the generation of change. So this is going to be a great conference. This is going to be a great event. So please hold there and we will start in a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so I think we can start now. Good day, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who is joining us right now. So again, thank you so much for joining us. This is the first event of Generation Change International Partnership Platform, which is a platform we are creating to actually do what we are going to do right now and connect young people for all around the world and give them the choice or the option to be the new voice of our generation. There are many brilliant minds and voices out there who daily are fighting every day for a change in our world. And most of the time, those brilliant minds and brilliant voices have no the option to actually share their work in a more global platform. So Generation Change International, what its work or goal is actually doing that, helping you share your knowledge, your work and experience with everyone, to all the world, and to connect young people, young leaders, young professionals, young activists, and young advocates with each other with the goal of helping each other to reach our goals and to have a better world, a better future, and a better generation where everyone can be equal with the opportunities and help each other reach them. So before we start the conference itself, let me show you what Generation Change International is all about. So let me share my screen really quick right here. Please let me know if you can see my screen now. Perfect, thank you. So this is Generation Change International. As you see, this is our website. You can learn about us, what we do, who we are. You can join us. You can see whatever's going on. So this is a first event, but don't worry, there will be more events upcoming. So here you can see what we're doing, who we are, who the team is. And I just wanted to, highlight the point that Janae Osborne and Gillian Montilla are both co-chairs of Generation Change International, and they're both speakers today. So I'm very excited about that. And there are ways where you can actually join us. And with that, you can create an event with us. You can, if you are an organization or organization representative and you want to partner with us, you can do so too, or you can be a volunteer. And with all those three options, you can reach out to us. And then we can know each other a little bit more, know what you're doing, what's your work, what is your organization, or what you do as an individual activist. So please, Generation Change International, what wants is to actually, connect everyone with each other and do this kind of events. Connect you and give you the opportunity to be there and say, hey, I'm here, I exist, and I have a lot to say. So, with that said, I think we can start now. So I will stop share and I will finally present the amazing speakers that are joining us today. Let's start with Representative Atika Scott. Atika, can you please present yourself a little bit? And thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Of course, certainly. And I hope that you're doing well. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I am an elder in this space for sure. And I bring you greetings from Louisville, Kentucky. We are about to honor the life of Breonna Taylor this week. It will be a year on Saturday, March 13th, that she was killed. So we're continuing to do the work of lifting up her name and making policy change. And maybe I'll get to talk about that a little bit more as we go on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Atika. It's such great to have you here joining us. Next one is Lara Chiviarani. I think it's her last name. I'm sorry, Lara, if I said it wrong. But
it's
how
all
are
right,
you?
Carlos. Hi.
Lara is from Argentina. So it's so great to have you here.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever in the world you are. I'm Lara Chiavarini. I'm from Rosario, Argentina. It's a city 300 kilometers from Buenos Aires. I work for an NGO called Fundación para la Democracia, and I'm really thrilled to be here. So thank you so much, Carlos, for inviting me and for organizing this event.
Thank you so much, Lara. It's so great having you here. So next one is no other than Saida Rasby, and young leaders in your professional co-chair from the NGO-CSW. Hi, Saida, how are you?
Hi, Carlos, and hi, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. What a way to kick off the day with you all fellow colleagues, talking about how to amplify the work of young people, especially young women around the world. Hi, again, my name is Saida Rizvi. I am one of the co-chairs of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women. And for those of you who may not know, I like to think of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women, or CSW for short, as the civil society arm of UN Women, because a part of the work we do is try and amplify the work of activists and leaders who are working to advance the cause of gender equality around the world and make sure that their voices are integrated into UN systems and processes. And I help to co-lead the youth element of this process, and really humbled and privileged to be in this position. I'm originally from Pakistan, and somehow as a young person, I ended up in this position. And I'm very humbled to be here and excited to have this conversation with all of you here, especially on International Women's Day. Thank you, Carlos, for organizing and inviting us.
Thank you so much, Saida. And for those who doesn't know, young leaders in your professional from NGO-CSW New York has been doing an amazing work, reaching out young people to educate them in so many amazing topics. And actually, they are our supporters for today's event. So thank you so much, Saida and Young Ladies in Your Professionals program for your amazing support and help. So next one is another person who is supporting this event 100%. She is Alexandria Casamay from the Canadian Coalition for Youth, Peace and Security. Hi, Alexandria, how are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's so great to be here with all of you. And thank you so much, Carlos, for having us today. We're so excited to be here and very excited about the launch of the new platform. We are the Canadian Coalition for Youth, Peace and Security. So we are based here in Canada, but we are working with partners such as Seda and Carlos to ensure that all of our mutual goals within this global community can be met. And we're just so excited to be kicking off International Women's Day with all of you. And again, Carlos, we just want to say huge congratulations for all the work that you've been putting into this new platform. And thank you so much for including us in this amazing journey that you're on right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. It's so great to have you here. It's so amazing to have the support of the Canadian Coalition. It's going to be amazing. It's so great to have you here. And next one, we have a Generation Change International Platform co-chair, Janae Osborne. Hi, Janae, how are you?
Hi, everyone. How are you? I am honored to be here with all of you and honored to be a co-chair with Carlos and with Gillian. So I am a student representative, one of only two in the world for the International Federation of Social Workers. I am a United Nations intern, and I am an advocate for women's rights abuses and children's abuses. So thanks to Carlos in including me in this, we have a bigger voice to go globally. And he has actually inspired me, to be honest, to create an additional website called Dare Me to Speak, which I'm hoping to launch today. And in that platform, what I'm hoping to do is show all the different abuses that women across the world experience: power abuse, abuse of power with the government, psychological abuse, online abuses, so on and so forth. The hope is to have petitions on there where people can change, make a change. And that starts with all of us here. So I am so honored and blessed to have you all here, and I thank you for attending.
Thank you so much, and it's so great to have you here, and it's so amazing to having you as co-chair of Generation Change International. Actually, Chennai's work, it's absolutely admirable and amazing. So it's an honor to have you here. Next one, we have the amazing Gillian Montilla, another co-chair for Generation Change International. Hi, Gillian.
Hello, Carlos. How are you? My name is Gillian. I am a first-generation Filipino-American that's now based in Paris. Here, I head an anti-racist student initiative at my school, Sciences Po Paris, where we're advocating for the inclusion of anti-racist praxis in higher education. Additionally, I also work with the European Network of Migrant Women on an action research project to find and expand the spaces for young migrants and refugee women to exercise their political rights. It's been amazing to learn from Janae and Carlos, and I'm really excited about another event that's coming up soon in March. We'll be trying to connect arts and to activism and a generation of artists in sustaining our work. I'm really excited to learn from everyone today, and thanks, can't wait to get started.
Thank you so much, Gillian. It's amazing to have you here too. And Gillian is another very admirable activist whose work is just beyond words, because it's more artistic than you can even know. So next one, last but not least, is Joha Jamshade. Hi, Joha, how are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm fine. How is everybody? So my name is Zoha, and I'm from Pakistan. And I had been working for women's rights and for transgender rights and for persons with disabilities. And I'm just 22, and I'm a young activist from Pakistan. And first of all, happy Women's Day to everybody. And thank you for the platform where we can, celebrate and talk about issues and drive some logical solution, meaningful solutions, and make this society better for everybody to live in. So thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm really loving it. Meeting all of you is just so good. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Soha. It's so amazing to having you here. Soha is another amazing activist from
Likewise.
Pakistan. So it's just an honor to have you here. Next,
Likewise.
now that you know and that you have met our amazing speakers of today, you can see that we are indeed international. We have amazing young women from the United States, Canada, France, Pakistan, Argentina. So actually, this platform is as international as it can be. So let's kick this off by asking a few questions. All of you will have a few minutes to answer. These questions are more to start a conversation, so you can answer based on your experience, on your knowledge, on your thoughts, opinions, or if you have data, you can also answer like that. So don't worry, this is not a test. You are not in school. This is not a nightmare. There are no wrong answers. So I wanted to start with Representative Atika Scott. And I wanted to ask her, do you think that the new generation of young leaders, professional activists, and advocates are achieving their goals of changing the world? What do you think, Atika?
Oh, definitely. And I appreciate that question, especially one to launch International Women's Day. Yes, and I say this often, every step along the way is a win. We're still working to get to the big wins, the gigantic wins, but we're winning every single step along the way. And just listening to the bios of the young people who are on this call tells me that there's amazing and good and important work happening everywhere across the globe. And I often say to our folks who are on the front lines for justice here in Kentucky, especially in the movement for Black lives, that we are winning. We are holding people accountable. We're working on public policy and advocacy. We have people ready to run for office at every single level, young people, young women, next year, 2022. That's a victory, that's a win, because many of us come from places where people never thought that we would amount to anything, and let alone run for office. So I want to lift that up because I think it's huge. And I really appreciate and value all the work all of you are doing all around the world, because we're learning from one another and sharing our lessons learned with one another so that we can build stronger, more vibrant communities and break down some of these barriers that have been erected to keep us away from one another. Thank you.
Amazing answer, Atika. Thank you so much. And I will actually ask the same to Soha, because I want to know, Soha, do you think that young people are achieving their goals, at least in Pakistan? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I feel like they're achieving their goals slowly. It's a slow process because we are a developing country, we're not fully developed. But the thing is, now that the digital media and the internet is so fast and it's linking so many people up, that people are slowly getting aware about things. So when awareness is there, people are changing. The youth is getting awareness, they're getting every kind of information from the social media. They're linking up with people of other countries, from youth of other countries. And also there are so many scholarship opportunities where people go out, they go abroad, they see how other people in other countries are working, and then they come back to their own country, and then they put that feedback in their country and make things better. So yes, they're improving, but improvement or behavior change is a slow process. So it's a slow, gradual process. So people are changing, but they're taking baby steps towards it.
Yes, that's totally right. Soha, thank you so much for your answer. And with that in mind, I wanted to ask Gillian, why do you think so many young people are fighting to change the world? Why do you think this is happening?
I think it's seeing that we have access to it and reimagining what political participation is beyond voting, beyond running for office. Those things, of course, are important, but we're seeing that there are spaces that we have incredible influence over, and it's just for ours to take. We're not seeking gender equality. We were always equal, always. That was never a question. That was never up for debate. What was now is that we are claiming what that actually means, which is our God-given right to be able to speak and be heard. And it's when we see other people do that, when we do it with ourselves, we give permission to other people to also exercise those rights. And it's exactly as Zoha has mentioned, we are so connected, and we're seeing people that are speaking truth to power all over the world under extreme intimidation from oppressive powers, and we are still here, and we're speaking much more loudly. And it's events like this, it's connecting with people that are like-minded, that have the same fire under their butts, for us to be able to continue this work.
Absolutely, Gillian. And I actually think, just like you and Soha, in just what Atika said, this generation has working so hard to actually change the world, that they are doing their best, and they're going to levels that I think no other generation had reached it. And we have, actually, this generation have so many things, mistakes from other generations, and that right now we are more like, okay, let's fix what the other generation couldn't fix. They tried, but they couldn't. Now it's our turn. So let's do it. And it's amazing what we are achieving, what we are doing, and it's so great to see how each of you are actually doing your work on your area to do exactly that, to change the world. So with this question, I also want Saida's thoughts of it. What do you think so many young people are fighting to change the world, Saida? I know that the Young Ladies in Your Professionals program actually, it empowers young people to have a voice, empower young people to have more knowledge, and to have more, to do more networking with people from international spaces. So can you tell us a little bit, why do you think so many young people are fighting to change the world, please?
Absolutely. And I don't think I have something brand new to add to the conversation that already hasn't been said about how we have this privilege of opportunity of being globally connected in a way that other generations just have not had. I mean, somebody sitting in Indonesia can be aware of what's happening to a young person in Australia, and vice versa. We can in real time see each other's wins. We can in real time see each other's struggles, and we can form in real time these global networks where we can support one another, connect with one another, share information with one another, and amplify one another. And I think that really helps build momentum in a way where we are at the end of the day supporting each other and uplifting each other. And it gives us all hope that if one person at one end of the world can make a difference, and maybe I in my own community can make a difference as well. It's this, I mean, that's not to say that these advances in technology and in the virtual world hasn't come with its own drawbacks, but it's also come with a great access to a global community that we shouldn't take for granted. I mean, with NGO-CSW, we host monthly events, and for most of these events, it's so normal to have hundreds of people with representatives from 60 or 70 countries. And at the time when we're hosting those events, it's like, oh yes, everybody's introducing themselves. They're in different time zones. They come from different cultures and languages, and it feels like the norm. But when those calls end, I sometimes sit back and go like, oh my God, I just connected with so many young people from all around the world, and it's incredible. It's uplifting, and it's humbling. So I think us as a generation, we've been given this opportunity, a platform that no other generation has ever had before. And it is for up to us to take that power very seriously, realize the responsibility that we've been given, and move forward with it. And I see young people doing that every day, and we will continue to do that.
Yes, Saida, thank you so much for that answer. And I believe the same. We have so many opportunities and tools to do this kind of events. For example, how a young Venezuelan activist like me will ever imagine that he will organize and moderate an international conference with a United States representative, with a co-chair of the Young Leadership Professionals program for the NGO-CSW, and with so many amazing, brilliant minds and voices. Like, it's unbelievable, but we are doing it, and we are here. And that's why we have to, go beyond that and do the best we can. So the next question is for Alexandria. In Alexandria, you know that this generation has been actually working really hard to find or to seek gender equality. And young people from all around the world are engaging more in seeking gender equality. What do you think this is happening?
Sure. Thank you so much, Carlos. So I think there's a few reasons for it. And of course, one that we see is that our generation today of young people is the largest that the world has ever seen. And when you tie that with the fact that we all have this interconnectedness, I think it amplifies our voices and our work so much more. But I also think that so many of the issues that we're working on are all really connected. And I think that while so many young peoples have been leaders for change for so many years, our generation is also up against climate change. And I think that we have this fire that lots of other generations maybe didn't have, because if we don't address some of these issues right now, we might not have the chance to get to a place where our world is going to sustain us long enough to address everything else. So I think these key issues where you see huge amounts of young people, especially involved in climate change, but then also pushing for gender equality and pushing for more youth in leadership, really comes from the fact that we are so passionate and have that fire that was mentioned under us to make this change now. Because if we don't start fixing the mistakes of the past, if we don't start making changes for a better world today, we might not get the chance to, and the future generations might not get a chance to take on this torch from us and continue the fight that's been going on for so long. And so I think that that passion that we have, compared and tied into the fact that we're all so connected, is really what's pushing for these huge amounts of different change and leadership that we're seeing today. And it's honestly very exciting to see, because I think while we have these issues that are so horrible and terrible, it's right, like we get this chance to come together and say, hey, I'm on a call today with someone from Venezuela and from all these different regions, and I'm going to work with them. We're going to work together. We're going to stand together. And I can't just sit here in Canada and say, okay, well, these are our issues, so I'm going to do this. And, you know, we're kind of doing okay with gender equality somewhat. See you guys later. You know, we can't do that. We all have to be in this together. We have to treat this as a global issue, and that's how we're going to move forward. So I'm very excited to see even events like this today as just another way that we're pushing this forward and starting to make more change.
Amazing, Alexandria. Thank you so much for that amazing answer. And I totally agree. I think our generation has, as I said before, has earned the past mistakes, but we are, you know, making it. We are going through it, and we are actually doing a change. We can see it here, how many young, brilliant women are expressing how they are working, their thoughts, their opinions, something that in 100 years will never be impossible. Today is more than possible, and just amazing and empowering. And so I wanted to also ask Lara, what do you think about this generation seeking more gender equality, and how are the things and the issues on Argentina?
Well, that's quite a challenging question. In Argentina, the reality for women, it's quite complicated, as you may know, and as it is in the whole world, and especially in Latin America, especially because even though what we say on the papers, like all the legislation and all the rule of law seems to be in a very good state, because government is implementing a lot of money to have programs to investigate the issue, there are still too many femicides committed every day. Like 1 woman every 27 hours is murdered in Argentina. So this is really terrible. And especially because, for example, from the 1st of January till the 28th of February in Argentina, 52 women were murdered. And moreover, 3 in 10 victims had reported their aggressors. So the government is missing something here. And for example, 1 in 5 femicides were committed by law enforcement here in Argentina. So the situation is quite scaring, let's say. But I believe that there are still many things we can do, and young activists have a key role to play here. For example, We can support feminist candidates for elections. We can support community outreach and capacity, and we can support capacity building trainings. We can call for gender quotas. We can demand the end of violence against women, and we should demand zero tolerance policies against sexual harassment. We should share the load of domestic and care work. And there are so many things we can and we must do to achieve gender equality. And moreover, I believe that very few people would dare to deny the gender gap today. They know it's not just a women's issue, it's a human rights issue. And that's key to understand this problem. And another thing is that, as many of the participants mentioned previously, is that young activists have a key role here, because if it's not us, then who? If it's not now, then when? So maybe this is just a starting point, and we have to learn from the legacy of the previous activists and advocates. So thank you.
Absolutely, Lara. So I agree with you. And you know that one of the amazing things of these spaces is that in 1 minute, we can see the reality of Pakistan, and then we can see the reality of Argentina, as we can see the reality of Canada and the United States. There are, these are different countries, and even though we fight for the same things, our fights are way too different, because while someone is fighting to have a representative for example, in the United States, which in the White House, in Argentina, people, and in Venezuela, people are fighting for women to not be killed, for women just to be safe and free. And this is, such a powerful thing, because the difference of fightings, even though they are the same topics, are huge, are way too huge. And we need to hear and learn from these countries that are having these amazing fights for women's rights, for human rights, because even though we are in 2021 to 21st century, these things still happen. There's still a lot of misogyny out there that we need to fight, and we still need to protect women, for them to have what they always should have, which is their human rights. And I love what Hillary Clinton was saying in Beijing 25 years ago: human rights and women's rights once and for all. And that's such a true words that right now, 25 years later, are still very powerful, and something that can, inspire and tell people, yes, the work is we still need a lot to do, but we are doing it. But we also need to hear from everyone else, like, let's just get out of our comfortable bubble and let's see what's going on in the world. And with that said, I wanted to ask Janae about that gender equality has increased its importance over the year. For example, 10 years ago, the United States of America will never imagine that it will have the first woman vice president, and Black and Asian. Like, hey, that's a great step right there, okay? Kamala Harris has just broken the glass ceiling, and she disappeared at all. But we still need a lot to do. So, Chennai, there's still a lot to achieve. How do you think young people can help to achieve gender equality goals of a more equal and just world for all? What do you think about that?
Thank you for that question, Carlos. And I must say that I'm just inspired by everything that I'm hearing from everyone here, so thank you. I think the word that I would use is collaboration. I think that as we heard earlier, we are in a time where collaboration has never been easier. We are exposed to the internet, social media, which is good and bad, because that has increased the abuses. But I think that today is one of the prime examples of how many can grow stronger, to empower young leaders, to empower future generations. If we think about it, we are our own limitations, and our own inspirations. And if you know of someone that would be perfect for position, for example, at a job, especially now with COVID, I think there's a lot of anxiety for a position, share that. Sharing is caring, as we hear. And I think that I'm a huge believer in that what you put out into the universe is going to come back to you twofold and threefold. So I think that the best thing we can do is to embrace each other, embrace our values, respect each other, live your life in dignity with integrity, and work together for a higher good.
Absolutely, Janae. Such a powerful answer, actually. Thank you so much. And this next question is for Atika, and it's that even though there has been an increase of women in power, for example, what I said earlier, the first female vice president of the United States, there's still a lot of women out there whose rights are violated every day, just like Lara just say what's happening in Argentina, and it's happening a lot in Venezuela too. Unfortunately, we still need an End Female Genital Mutilation Day to remember that those practices still exist. Do you think we are close to ensure an equal world, or that's a task for future generations? What do you think, Atika?
I'm convinced that we are much closer. I really appreciate what Gillian said, which is that we were already equal, but now we're working on what does that look like in reality. And we see that here in the United States every day, that we're still working on that in the medical field. We're still working on that in education and government and politics and business. At every single level of our society here in the United States, we're still working on women being treated as equal. We're equal, but we need to be treated as such. And so it's a work in progress, but I'm confident that the leadership that so many young people have shown us will get us there, and will get us there much sooner than I imagine anyone thought possible, because we cannot ignore the cries for justice that we're hearing from young women. We cannot ignore the cries for justice that we're hearing from any of our communities across the country or around the world. And as we just heard from many of the young women who spoke, we are moving forward, and we will get there together. It's that collaboration, it's that partnership, it's that speaking up for and with one another that will get us there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that amazing answer, Atika. And I think I share your positive vision of the future. I think even though we still need a lot to do, I think we are close. We are very close to that goal. And I can't just wait to see that world where everyone is just equal, where everyone see everyone as equals, because that's exactly what we need. And it's just like Gillian and Atika just say, we are already equals. It's just that people doesn't realize it yet. So the next question is a very important one, which is empowering young people from vulnerable countries. As I said before when Lara was talking, there is a difference, there is a gap between the fights of young activists in Latin America, for example, in Venezuela and Argentina, then from young people in the United States, Canada, all parts of Europe. So with this, normally we actually see voices, the voices of each generation that makes an impact in the world are more from first world countries than from vulnerable countries. We always see, like the young leader and amazing, brilliant mind and voice of a young woman or man from the United States, from Canada, from England, from Spain, and it's amazing. Of course, it's amazing, but why we don't see so much like these amazing, brilliant voices and young people from Pakistan, from Argentina, from Venezuela, from Afghanistan, from China? There is a lot of people out there doing an amazing work that they are invisible for everyone else, because we strive to keep our eye on first world countries. So, and this question is for Soha. Soha, why do you think this happened? And what would be your advice to give more opportunities to young people from third world countries and countries in conflicts? Soha, if you're talking, you're muted. I cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you please repeat the question? I couldn't understand it.
Of course. Normally, we see that the voices of each generation that makes an impact in the world are more from first world countries than from vulnerable countries. What do you think this happened, and what will be your advice to give more opportunities to young people from third world countries and countries in conflicts?
Okay, so what I understand is that you're trying to say that people from vulnerable countries, their voice is not much heard, whereas the voice of other countries, the developed countries, they're more heard. Okay, so I feel like it's because of the fact that it's somewhat about credibility also, because people from a developed country, they have more power, more exposure, more opportunities, more awareness, more education. So that automatically makes them, a complete human, a complete responsible adult, somebody who can make their own decision and implement them. Whereas people who are from a vulnerable country, they don't have much opportunities. They don't have access to, a lot of awareness projects, a lot of educational projects, a lot of trainings. So definitely they have that deficiency in their in their, I don't want to say character, but in their personality they do have a certain, like a certain thing that is not as perfect as somebody from a developed country. And definitely because of those opportunity and because of the lack of resources, they can't be as good as other people can. So this is, but I feel like in the vulnerable country, people should, give funds, give opportunities for them also, so they can have, a life that is above the poverty line. Because right now they're so below the poverty line that they don't have access to basic life facilities. They don't have food, they don't have education. So obviously when you don't have food and education and shelter, so you can't, do really good in life. So I feel like more opportunities should be given to such countries, such people, such vulnerable groups. We need to target them, and we need to see what actually is missing from their personalities and work on that, and then automatically they will, bloom as an individual.
Amazing answer, Soha. Thank you so much.
Can I also jump in?
Of course, Aida, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yes, I love your answer, Zoha, especially about how so many people don't have access to basic resources in so many countries. So how are you, when you don't know where your next meal is coming from, how do you think about changing the world? But going off of my experience as an immigrant to the US, I think it's also important to, and this is a very loaded question, Carlos, it's a very big question with a lot of different answers. But where my headspace is going towards is also recognizing that the current power structure, the current world we're in, of vulnerable countries versus countries that are more powerful, it's built on a structure of white supremacy. It's built on a structure of colonization. It exists because certain groups of countries have extracted and looted resources from other countries and built their own economies, built their own nations at the expense of the rest of the world in many ways. And because we survive and exist in the structure of white supremacy, it's also important to note that then the work of people or youth belonging from countries that are predominantly white, they are framed as being important or doing the so-called valid work. But it's also important to recognize that valid and important work is taking place all around the world. It's just that importance isn't being necessarily shined on it, or attention isn't being given to it. There is more validity, as there is always more validity given to white men, there's also more validity given to white youth, whether they be men and women or girls and boys in this context, because unfortunately the system and the narrative we exist in does give more power to a certain group of people at the expense of other groups. So I think it's important to recognize that a lot of incredible work is happening all around the world. It's just that the current system we live in is choosing to uplift one group over the other. And now that we have so much access to these resources and tools that allow us to uplift one another's work, it's important for generations and for groups that have so far been privileged in this space to step aside and uplift the voices and the work of people who have been systematically ignored and sidelined. So it is for up to those groups to make way and to make space for these groups, for vulnerable youth belonging from vulnerable groups to have a voice and to have the power to speak and to be heard. I think that's a part of it.
Carlos, can I come in on this too now?
Yes, but I see that Gillian has her hand raised. So let's go ahead with Gillian first, and then I give you the word, Janae. Okay?
Thank you. It reminds me what you were saying was a quote from Angela Davis, where she talks about the fact that feminism needs to go beyond gender equality and needs to come with the ready acknowledgement of the inequality that's born out of racism, colonialism, classism. And only then can we actually have a true feminist vision for the world that includes everybody, leaves nobody behind. And I think as you're saying, as that we need to make space, people need to step aside, we need to locate and put resources into locating talent and voices and vision that haven't necessarily historically been have had access to these spaces of influence. I see the same thing with my advocacy work at my university, where in France, for example, they wrote the concept of race out of the constitution. So how do you have a conversation about Black Lives Matter when it's taboo to even talk about Black, to even talk about Asian? So this is where the conversation is here in France. So when we say that we need to be more inclusive in our hiring practices, because you shouldn't have an African studies program, which is one of the second most renowned in the world, only staffed by white people. How can you have a narrative be only, again, monopolized by a population, a population that also mirrors the historical inequalities that are born out of the fact that this is the grounds for what we're studying now. So, but then you bring this up to certain people in positions of power who maybe are feeling a little insecure about their place in the world, and they say, oh, because I'm white, I'm not allowed to talk about this. No, we're not saying that. We're just saying that there should have other people have access to these spaces to be able to shape their own narrative of their own people. That's it. And it's such a difficult conversation to have, but it's a necessary conversation to have. And of course, these power imbalances, it's mirrored in between North and South, between genders, before races, but it's just about holding space and recognizing your own privilege. I understand that I'm brought into this place because I have economic privilege that other people don't have, that I have, I appear as a cishet woman, so I have privilege because of that. And just because it's important to acknowledge that and moving forward. That was kind of a trail off, but thanks.
Thank you, Gillian. Janae, please give it your opinion.
Well, I just wanted to state that I think the other thing is that we have to remember I'm extremely exposed to many NGO committees and organizations. And so we should remember that culture has a lot to do with how people are able to express themselves. And the countries that you were initially speaking of are very male-dominated cultures. When you look at the statistics of the World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women internationally is being abused. Abuse in certain countries actually is legal because that is their form of keeping women down, their form of reminding women that they are to respect a man. So we have to remember that there is a lot of fear imposed in millions of women across the globe. And although they want to speak up, some may not know that they have that right. Some are fearful of their lives. Remember, a lot of times children are used as collateral as well. So we have to look at the reasonings as to why and actually be inspired by these women to try to make a difference. And I believe it was Zoha that had mentioned before that this process is very slow. And it can become very frustrating because as I'm hoping to go into international policy changes, it's not something that, as we love the quick, the quick answer, the quick turnaround. We don't get that. And you especially cannot get that internationally because you have to tread very carefully in other people's countries. It would be disrespectful for us to go to the Middle East and say, well, listen, I mean, this is how we do it as Westerners, and this is the right thing to do. I mean, that's arrogant of us to actually think that we can do that. So I think that we need to be very respectful. We need to know cultures before we can actually move forward and make any advances. That's not to say that we can't, because obviously we are. But I think that in order to keep people safe, we need to make sure that we know what we're walking into before we make that pass.
Amazing opinion and answer, Janae, really. Next one, Alexandria, I see your hands raised, so go ahead.
Sorry, Carlos, I know you have so many wonderful questions planned out for us today, but I just wanted to hop on this one as well very quickly. I just had two quick things I wanted to add that I think is really important in all of our work. And firstly, I think that there is this really unfortunate correlation that colonialism has created between being educated and have something to say and having your voice matter and being fluent in English. And I think that you go into large scale conferences, and often many things, again, are always offered just in English in the most part, and people are expected to adapt to that. And there's this mindset that is like, well, you're not fluent in English, so you don't deserve the opportunity. You can't do that. I mean, I think we've seen so many applications for opportunities at the UN or with different international organizations, and one of the very first things that you see is fluency in English is necessary for this position. And I think that we really have the opportunity in our generation where we have literally thousands of languages spoken in the world, and every single one of them is valid, and people can be heard and use their voice in every single one of them. And I think that when we work to change that understanding within our generation, that English is not the only valid language to achieve things in, I think that we're going to really be able to further a lot of the work that we're doing, because the fact that I am fluent in English doesn't make me any smarter or wiser or more qualified than any other person on this call. And the fact that that's the expectation is really unfortunate. And one other quick thing that I wanted to add is that we also have to really eliminate competition culture. And Shania, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier too, that even here in Canada, there's so many times, and something our coalition's really working against is like, oh, I saw this grant opportunity and I want it, so I'm going to apply and I'm not going to tell anyone because I want that money. And if I tell someone else, well, they might get it. And there's so many times even where it's like, oh, okay, I can apply for this opportunity to go speak at the UN. Do I need to? No. Do I really have something to say on this topic? No. Do I think it will look cool on my Instagram? Yeah, I'm going to apply. I want to go. That sounds fun. And it's like, do I need to be there? Is my voice the voice that needs to be heard in this? And if it's not, then you shouldn't be applying. You should say, Carlos, I have this opportunity that someone should take. I want you to apply to this. You have more to say on this topic than I do. And that's how we're going to advancing, and that's how we're going to move forward together, is by stop saying, well, I, and me, because we're in this together. And if we don't treat it like that, nothing's going to move forward. Thank you.
That deserves a standing ovation, Alexandria. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that opinion. It's such a great one because it touches so many important topics and issues that you know, we can have a whole conference just with what Alexandria just said right now, because everything that she said was absolutely right. And I see that Lara has her hand raised. So Lara, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. Actually, I want to highlight everything that all the panelists have said throughout this question. I completely agree with many of them, with Soha talking about credibility, about education and visibility, with Said talking about how we can't, how developed countries and colonialism has built and has made their opinion like the one that is always seen, basically. How Gillian talked about how other people should have access to these spaces, and how white people may be talking about Black problems when actually there are other voices that should be heard. But on the other hand, I want to bring back what Soha, no, what Shanae and Sahid said previously, how technology is an opportunity and an advantage, how collaboration has never been easier, how we can take advantage of situations like this one to speak up and make our voices heard, how technology is an ally for us nowadays, how virtuality has democratized those spaces for all of us, and how young people should seize the opportunity that lies before them. So basically, I wanted to bring this topic to the question. And another thing, I believe that coming from vulnerable countries and lacking some resources also makes you creative, makes you, it forces you to adapt and to be flexible. It makes you, it's like, okay, these are my resources. This is what's at hand. And what can I do with this? How can I improve my situation with these limited resources? So that's another thing I really wanted to say, coming from a really unstable country like Argentina.
Thank you so much, Lara, for that opinion. And actually, you are totally right. And when you say that actually activists from vulnerable or tier world countries doesn't have enough resources, that's so true. That's so true. And actually, we have to be creative. Just like Lara said, we have to be creative. We have to be imaginative. We have to put this mind, this brain to work 24/7. For example, here in Venezuela, my movement doesn't have resources at all of any kind. So actually, to make the activities or events that we are doing here in Venezuela, we have, for example, if it's in Zoom, we don't have the money to go Zoom. So actually, we go to another organization that has it and say, hey, can you please make me a favor and give me your Zoom account for just one event, And certainly, if you don't have if you have anyone who can keep a good friend, it's you and I, just again. It's just that we have to be creative in all kind of situations when there is a lack of resources. And what Lara said, it's just, oh gosh, it's just so true. Again, what Alexandria and Lara said, we can have a whole new conference, a whole new conversation of 2 hours long, just like that. And I wanted to highlight what Lara was saying about the importance of the connection that we have right now, thanks to the pandemic. And I will say it like this because we know that we have nothing to thanks to the pandemic, but actually it has helped, for example, the United Nations to open more to more people because their events are online. So it's, like, for example, 5 years ago, if I wanted to go to a United Nations event, I have to go to New York. If I wanted to go to a hearing, I have to go to some place in Europe or some place in the United States. Now I have the opportunity to be in my own house and to actually attend these meetings. And it's actually Lara and I, in our first private meeting, we were talking about that, and we say, actually, I think that this pandemic situation just what it did was to put 20 years on future, like put us 20 years into the future, because right now everything is virtual. Right now everything is online. And it's a huge advantage for us, people like Lara and I and Soha, who are from countries that are not as developed as Canada or the United States or France, where it's a really big, opportunity for us that we have to work on. We have to take it. And this is a question related to that. And it's that, as I say, nowadays, everything is online. Some conference, such like this one, is now daily usual. For a lot of young people, it has opened doors for them since now they can assist to conference events and opportunities that before they couldn't. Do you think we should keep these online events going even after the pandemic and the COVID-19? And I will give this question to Saida.
Thanks, Carlos. Of course, a really timely question. I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic, probably the only silver lining of the pandemic, is that it has given validity to the virtual space in a way that didn't exist before. In previous times, whenever there was talk of including more diversity in UN processes or in global meetings, we had to deal with so many barriers where they started from, oh, we don't have economic resources to fly in people, to have them stay in XYZ country. Oh, how are they going to get the visa? So many logistics to figure out. Now we can bypass many of these issues and be able to join virtually. And that's not to discount the fact that access to technology is still a major issue. There are many people who do not have that access and continue to stay excluded from these conversations. But we have taken some steps forward. And I think this whole process of being forced to work from home and being forced to connect over Zoom and other platforms, it has really, again, proven the fact that you don't need to be together physically in the same room, in the same space, to have powerful conversations, to have your opinion heard, and to really make sure that your presence is felt. And at least I can say from a CSW point of view that we are really excited about hosting a virtual conversation for our conference for the first time ever, because it's allowing for more young people and more global audience to tune in a way that it never has been able to do before. And one of the few issues we worried about so much each year was visas. How are our delegates going to get visas to the conference? Because it is so horrifyingly difficult to get a visa to come to North America or to come to Europe for many countries. Many delegates belong to those countries. So we've bypassed some of those barriers. And I think moving forward, once hopefully we can put this pandemic behind us, we can continue to take the lessons from this pandemic and move forward with having some sort of a hybrid of these spaces where even if we're able to meet physically, we ensure that there are platforms that allow people who are not there physically to still be able to join us, still be heard, and still participate in a meaningful way.
Thank you so much, Saida, for your answer, and I totally agree with you. And I wanted to ask the same question to Alexandria. Alexandria, what do you think? Actually, there is a concern for activists and advocates from all around the world to when the pandemic is over and we can, go to presence. Sorry, that's my dog. She wanted to be in the international conference too, sorry. So there is a concern with young leaders and young professionals that when the pandemic is over and people again start to create presential events, like the events online like this will disappear. So what do you think? We need, do you think it will disappear? We need to keep it on? What do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
Sure. So I have two things to add to this. And I think the first is that some of us here I recognize on the call as well from attending the Commission on the Status of Women in the past, which is something I have been very privileged to get to attend. And I have lost count of the amount of times, especially in the last few years, where I've walked into an event, and specifically when it comes to youth events, and there will be a chair at the front of a room with a poster on it that says visa denied. And the amount of times that we've had to have things where someone just can't come and speak because they weren't given a visa. And I think something that Saida was saying about that is a huge issue, because it's so impactful that just to walk in and have those chairs there and being like, well, this person should have been here. This person's voice matters and needed to be heard, and they just didn't get a visa, so they don't get to be here today. And that's just awful. And I think that being able to have these spaces where we do get to actually hear from each other is so important, because like I was saying earlier, it's when we're actually coming together and working together that we're actually going to make any changes. And I think that they're especially important because, I mean, you look at a country like Canada, where I'm from, and there's often an assumption that, of course, anyone from Canada can afford to go to the UN, or that we all have the opportunity to do that. But Canada is actually made up of so many rural and remote regions outside of urban centers that face huge, huge human rights violations. They don't have access to internet. They don't have clean drinking water. They don't have access to proper food. The cost of a milk jug can be $20 in Canadian, which is a lot for a jug of milk, because in an urban center, you can maybe get it for $2. The disparities that we see across the regions of our country are huge. And so while there is a lot of representation from countries like Canada, it's often places that people probably have heard of, like Toronto, or the areas where there's a lot more access to basic human rights. And those are the people who are being heard. So even in the more developed nations, when you have conferences like that and you think there's representation, there still isn't. You know, we have issues in Canada like the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls crisis, where Indigenous women and children and LGBT community are being killed off, and no one cares, no one knows. And when I say no one, I mean institutions, not the people. But I think that having spaces like this allows people, for the most part, despite internet access issues, to have their voices heard, even in countries like Canada. And when you put that on a global platform where issues are seen even in the urban centers of countries, that's a huge problem. And if we don't continue these spaces, I think a lot of the progress we actually have made during COVID might disappear, because you can't just kind of be like, oh, okay, now we're listening to these voices and, oh, okay, we're good, we're gonna throw them back over there now. You can't do that, because otherwise we're not gonna have any real successes. So to answer your question, yes, I think it's absolutely important to continue these, especially for diversity across the world. But again, even for countries like myself, where so many voices, especially Indigenous youth, are often just excluded or not taken seriously, or aren't allowed to come because they can't afford to, or there's no way for them, or their voices aren't given enough priority. But I think to do so, we also really need to make sure that access to information, access to technology, prices of Wi-Fi is addressed, so that we really can keep moving forward together.
Amazing, Alexandra. Thank you so much for your answer. And I totally agree with you. You have said so many things about what's going on in Canada that I was like, oh my God, look at my mind barriers. They're down. They're absolutely down. They're destroyed. Because, you know, for example, here in Venezuela, when we talk about Canada, we were like, oh, that's the country of good people. That's the country of gentle people. That's the rich country where everyone is happy and everyone is gentle and everyone is nice. So hearing you say like, oh, we have issues in Canada too, it's like, no, oh my God, this can be, this cannot be. I see that you have your hand raised, Alexandra. Do you have anything else to say?
Sorry, just very, very quick. I don't want to take too long of an answer, but just to add to that, yeah, I think that especially in doing partnerships like this, that's when our mutual issues can come out. We have issues just like other countries where, is what's being told in the media really accurate? Probably not. And I think that it's like when we create partnerships, regardless of, oh, well, this is a developed nation and this one isn't, I think by removing that mindset and saying, hey, we are all citizens of this earth and we all need to work together, because there are so many issues. And yes, the things like, you know, access to food and education and things like that look so different, and violence from government bodies and military states looks different, but we still see so much inequality and so much violence in all of the areas of the world. And it's when we come together that we're actually going to be able to address those things.
Thank you so much, Alexandria, for your opinion, your thoughts, and your comments. It's just amazing to hear from you and to hear your point of view, what's going on in Canada, and about the, you know, being a global citizens, which is actually I'm very agree on. And I want to ask the same question to Janae Osborne. Janae, do you think that, I know that you, for example, work a lot with conference, you're like daily on conference, like every day, you switch one to another. And what do you think, and I know you are from New York, so what do you think? Do you think we still need these virtual spaces to boil up this kind of conference? Or do you think we should be doing something else? What do you think about this?
No, I absolutely think that we need this space to be able to discuss. I also think that this is a space for us to hear, to listen. I think that a lot of times we are so busy speaking that we forget to actually listen. And when we're in spaces like this, we're able to hear other people's voices from all over the world. I mean, I'm fascinated consistently. I think that if we think about COVID, we're constantly thinking about the negatives. But I think that if you put positive energy out to the universe and wonder, what has COVID given me? Why am I going through this? What have I learned from this? And how can I expand from this? I think if we start asking ourselves positive questions, I think we'll start to see that a lot of positive has occurred from all of this. And Generation Change International is one of those things that have come from COVID, and that has brought people from all over the world to discuss very important, necessary issues. And it's helping us to collaborate, that's the word that I mentioned earlier, to be able to find new answers. And it may not be a huge answer, it may not be something that touches millions, but it is something that touches one, it touches 10, it touches hundreds. And it just needs to touch one person. This conversation here, we had someone from Northern Ireland speaking, I think it was Leah maybe, about everything that's going on in Ireland, the lockdowns, the increased rates of domestic violence. I wouldn't know that if it wasn't for her speaking up just in this platform right here. So I think that my inspiration of COVID-19, one of them right now is Generation Change International, and this discussion right now. This discussion needs to continue. As Saeed is saying, also with CSW, I just absolutely love CSW and everything that they're doing. Every event. We may not be able to attend every event, but if we can attend something once a month and contribute to that, I think that is our impact making global change.
Thank you so much, Janae, for your amazing answer. And for those who are listening to us and want to know what Janae was talking about when she said what's going on in our island, Rhea had said in the chat that her concern is the impact of the pandemic of women's rights. An issue in Ireland is how lockdowns have resulted in increased rates of domestic violence and increased rates of harassment and intimidation against women and girls online, especially women in politics, women's politicians. There was also the horrific news of a Discord server being used to gather a shared image of women and girls in Ireland. It was an unprecedented scale of image-based sexual abuse that highlighted the fact that the law in the Republic of Ireland had not effectively criminalized this, and the law in Northern Ireland needs reform. This is, some serious stuff, and I see that Janae has her hand raised, so go ahead.
Yes, sorry, but I did want to, just because of what you said, Carlos, and I think it was Alexandria that mentioned something, but this conversation has been going. This is a perfect example. Ireland is primarily white, and I think perhaps it was Saida that was talking about how the world is more white dominated. We would not know that Ireland, a more developed country, is having such third world country issues. I believe it was Alexandria that was talking about the media. We're being fed information through what the media wants us to know. The politics in the US is a perfect example. If you're watching CNN, you're going to get one thing. If you're watching NBC, it's another thing. So even in our own country, we're being fed different material. So again, with the question that you had asked, it is these discussions that we are learning firsthand knowledge from people that are experiencing it. This is again another reason why these discussions need to continue, because we cannot trust the media to know what the truth is. We have to listen to each other.
Thank you so much, Janae. That's such a powerful comment and opinion. And you know what, Alexandria, you said about the media is something so true, because as you said, CNN gives us one thing, maybe Fox News gives us another thing, NBC gives us another different thing. So we have like different realities following what the media said. And as I was saying to Alexandria, if you ask anyone, if you say anyone in Venezuela, oh, Canada has issues, they will be like, oh, no, they're a happy country. I haven't been there, but I know they're a happy country, you know? And it's the same if you say that the United States have issues. Like if you say, no, the United States have political issues, they will be like, United States is a democratic country. They have no political issues. And that's what happens in Venezuela. We have the mind that everyone else is happy except for us. Like we are the only ones that is happening through a crisis. And I know Lara will agree with me because Argentina is also going through a crisis. And actually, Argentina and Venezuela are very alike. So yeah, this is just, you know, these spaces, as Janae said, are important because of that. We have the opportunity to hear from real people, from real people who live there and can say, no, things are not like are painted. We have issues like everyone else, and we have to work in those issues. So actually, we are almost on time to finish this conference. I know, it's sad. I would love this conference will last at least 4 hours more, but we cannot do that. So I will give just the last answer, the last question to all of you. And then we are going to, I'm going to give each of you a few minutes to say bye, to say goodbye. And then we are going to, you know, to end this for now. But I think these kind of spaces have to repeat itself. Like we need a second generation change international conference because this is just amazing. There's so many topics that we haven't touched yet. So I wanted to ask Gillian, how do you think young leaders can effectively help each other to achieve their goals and change the world?
Thank you, Carlos. So I think what's different from this generation, from the previous generation, is that we're approaching our advocacy work not as a zero-sum game. My ability to speak and be heard is not at the expense of you. We need to build together. We need to see that me sharing my voice, you sharing your story, it all augments to lead us closer to a more equal and just world. So that's all to say that we need to look at and approach our advocacy from a perspective of community building, from a place of healing, because we cannot approach this work only through hatred and sadness and frustration, because we will burn out. And I think we've all experienced this in some capacity. And this is why I believe art is so important in sustaining activism work, because it's the sisterhood, it's the family, it's the, in Audre Lorde calls it the erotic, but we're kind of reclaiming that idea from pornography, obviously, but it's this idea of what connects human to human. And I think that's what makes the work so much more exciting to engage in. It makes us so much less scared to engage in the work. And I think in COVID, where mental health problems are rampant, where we're all feeling so isolated, we need to find a new way to sustain this. And so that's all to say that we need to look at each other as teammates in this.
Thank you so much, Gillian. And I will, the same question goes to Saida Rizvi. Saida, how do you think young people and young leaders can, you know, connect with each other to help each other and to achieve their goal? What did you thought on it?
Yeah, I think it's, again, going back to that opportunity we have now to be able to connect with each other through these platforms, and also letting each other know that these opportunities exist. Like Alexandria was speaking about earlier, we're not in competition with one another. We're here to support each other and uplift one another. And also want to acknowledge that this whole space of connecting with one another can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming. And as a young person who came to the United Nations for the first time, I remember that space being very scary, very intimidating. You have all these really incredibly powerful, seemingly powerful and important people, and it can be scary. But if we form networks where we're able to uplift and amplify each other's voices, then it becomes a little less scary, it becomes a little less intimidating, which is one of the reasons I really enjoy some of the events that we host with our partners for the Young Leaders and Young Professionals program, because it's young people who are from similar contexts, similar backgrounds, and because we're together in similar spaces, we feel more empowered to speak to one another and uplift one another. And just building off of what Gillian said about sustaining this global feminist movement, we're not going to if we don't go there together, we're not going to get there at all. So this feminist movement has to be intersectional. We have to work together. We cannot leave anyone behind. So it's important we recognize that, we support each other, and keep moving forward. And thank you again, Carlos, for organizing this. This has been such a especially motivating conversation on the morning of International Women's Day. Really, really excited that I was able to be a part of it.
Thank you, Zaida. It was just an honor to have you here. And the next question goes to Alexandria. Alexandria, how do you think NGOs can help young people to empower them and to, help them to reach the next level in their advocacy? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think something that Zaida just said was really important is that like a lot of spaces can be very intimidating for people. And I think that the way that NGOs can work is not to kind of just tell young people what to do or just like, oh yeah, just go do it. Like, we believe in you, you've got this, but to actually do capacity building in the sense of like, these are the capacities you already have. You already have this information. You already know your lived experiences. You already know what your communities need to advance gender equality, to thrive, to succeed. And to work together with people who are already leaders and are doing things, or people who don't even recognize that they're a leader yet, and saying like, this is how you use your voice to be heard. Because I think myself 5 years ago, if you told me to come onto the conference today and to speak, I'd be like, I'm not qualified enough. I can't talk. I'm going to get too nervous. I don't want to do it. And I would just like, I would be blushing like crazy, and I would be stumbling over. I would go crazy. I would not be able to do it because 5 years ago was like, my voice doesn't matter. Why would Carlos ask me to come speak at this event? I have nothing to say. But changing that and seeing, okay, there's people on this call that I have the wonderful privilege of working with, and saying to them like, hey, you should talk about this. Like, you are so good at this. You have all this knowledge. You are skilled. You are qualified. You are already qualified. We don't need NGOs to qualify us. We don't need the UN to qualify us. We don't need governments to qualify us. We already are qualified, but it's about teaching people and helping us to grow and understanding how we can use those things that we already have to be heard. And I think that is super important. And again, to just work together, that is so, so huge. Like, without, here in Canada, LGBTQ plus marriage has been legalized. It's not criminalized here to be a gay woman. Whereas if you go into other countries, there's still death penalties for things. We can't sit in that's just one many examples, but we can't sit and say, okay, my region's achieved this. We're good. Check the box and move on. Because if someone else hasn't achieved it, we haven't achieved it. And I think that mindset is just really important. I'm also going to put the Canadian Coalition for Youth, Peace and Security's Twitter in the chat. And I would really love to keep engaging with all of you. This is just phenomenal. And I think that everyone is just doing such amazing work. So thank you so much for having me with you all today.
Amazing, Alexandria. It's so great to hear your comments and your opinions. It's just, powerful and amazing. And I would give the same question to Lara. Lara, how do you think NGOs can help empower young people and connect each other to achieve their goals? What do you think?
Even though I completely agree with what Alexandra just said, I believe that NGOs can be an opportunity for young people, or at least that's my personal experience. I've been a volunteer in many NGOs since I was in high school, maybe, and it helped me learn a lot, and it helped me reach places I would have never been able to reach if I hadn't been engaged with an NGO. So even though I really completely agree and I understand your point about how voices are important, and you are trained enough to be in a panel like this, and your experience is valued, it could also be a possibility. It opens doors. For example, the NGO I work for has a consultative status with ECOSOC, and that enabled me and my organization to access places we would never be able to access if we hadn't had that consultative status. And it has helped students and volunteers reach these places, and they would have never been able to access those places. So I believe it has a little bit of what you said, and also another, like the other side of the coin, let's say. So just that. And I would really encourage young people to be part of NGOs, to volunteer. One thing we talked with Carlos when we had our private meeting was that you don't need money to advocate or to participate in NGOs. You need time, actually. You need passion. You need commitment to work with an NGO. Really, what really needs, it's commitment to be there every day, to understand people needs, to listen, basically to listen what other people have to say. So just that.
Thank you so much, Lara. It's just wonderful to hear your thoughts and opinions too. And last but not least, Soha, I wanted to ask you, how do you think young people can connect with each other to achieve their goals? What will be your advice to those young people who want to connect worldwide with each other? And yeah, that will be the question.
Okay, so for them to connect, I feel like social media is a really good platform. For instance, let me give you an example that you reached out to me on LinkedIn. I didn't know you didn't know what I was doing, but definitely I kept on posting my work, and then you reached out to me, and then I said that it's a really good opportunity. I would want to go for it. So my first advice to them would be to stay updated, stay connected on social media, on different platforms. Use them for a meaningful connection, for something productive, not for something bad. And secondly, then obviously when somebody reach out to you, avail every opportunity that you get. Every single opportunity will teach you something good, and it will groom you as an individual. And it's really important for you to grasp every opportunity that is knocking your door. So that is my advice to every young people around the world. And social media and the power of internet is so strong that it keeps people connected from every part of the world. Like right now I'm sitting with women from all around the world, and I'm just surprised and happy how this all is made possible by the power of internet. Yes.
Thank you so much, Soha. And yes, actually, I will give my own advice to those who are hearing, and for those who will hear when we post this on YouTube. I actually reached out Soha and Lara on LinkedIn. I don't know Soha. I don't know Lara. I have like no idea who were they. I just, it just put me on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, she has a great bio. She will be great for the conference. And this will be like and for example, Alexandria, I also don't know Alexandria. I knew Alexandria for a very, very short time in a few Young Leader in Your Professionals program event. And I was like, she would be great too. So why not? And actually that's what will be like the question, Gillian. I also didn't know Gillian and Janae. I actually don't know any of you, actually, to be honest. And Zaira, I also don't know her. I knew Zaira because of the Young Leader Professionals program. And Gillian, someone very dear to me in a meeting said, Gillian Montilla will be great for the conference. So I'll give you her contact. And she resulted to be pure gold. And she's now the co-chair of the Generation Change International. Janae, I also met her like a few moments in a Young Leader in Your Professionals program event, and boom, she's now the co-chair to Generation Change International. And I have learned that you have to go ahead, even if you don't know the person. If you like what you see, you just need like a few minutes to know. For example, in my case, you just need a few minutes to know if it fits you, if their profile, if their knowledge, if what you're talking about, if it fits you, go ahead and do it. Because sometimes it will work. Sometimes you will meet amazing people who will help you create this kind of events. And that would be like my advice to you. Just go ahead. If you see someone and you say, oh my God, this person looks like just the perfect fit for a conference, for a meeting, or for anything, just go ahead and say, hi, how are you? Go to your elevator speech and just tell them what you want. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not. Like I text 100 people for this conference, and I ended up with this amazing partner. Not if you touch every door, not all the doors will open, but a few will, and those few will just help you out with so many things, and you can just go ahead and do what you want, because it does work. You know, this is a networking that you can do right now, because people are more open with social media than before. And now you have this amazing opportunity to just reach out everyone, even if you don't know them. And I'm the example of that, because I don't know any of them personally. Now I do, and now I appreciate all of these amazing women that have supported me and are here with me on this conference, because, you know, like, I didn't know her, but I just give the time to know them, and they give the time to know me. And now I think we have, you know, like, these amazing contacts where we can talk with each other for future conference and events. And, you know, that's it. And that's it. So I will give the word to Lara, who has her hand raised. Go ahead, Lara.
Yeah, Carlos, about what you just said and about what Soha said earlier. Basically, I want to encourage people and young leaders to be bold, to lose, not to be shy, to contact people. When I started working for the NGO I'm working for, I had to organize an international event with Peace Nobel laureates, and I had to reach like these academics and these people I had to study at university. It was like, oh my God, I will never be able to reach them. And they are people that one maybe think they are like superhuman with superpowers, but they are human beings. And as you said, nowadays we have so many tools and so many opportunities with Google, with LinkedIn, with social media. And this is also an opportunity, and it's easier to reach people. So in a good sense, be shameless, like write to them, send emails. People will answer because many of them are eager to listen what you have to say, and will probably be up to any of the projects you are, if they can, and if it's in their possibilities, they will help you. So that's just one tiny advice I really, really want to give, and I think it helps a lot.
Thank you, Lara. I see that Soha has her hand raised. Soha, go ahead.
Yes, so I just want to add to what you and Lara said. So it's just so beautiful that it creates a ripple effect. It creates a snowball effect that, you know, one person, and then that one person will connect you to another 40 women. So now, you know, now I know another 20, 40 women, and like we're a family, and then we can connect and share ideas together. And now that I know you, and through this conference, I know another so many amazing women doing such amazing work that it actually inspires me and motivates me to do even greater work. So, you know, it's such a beautiful kind of thing that it creates such a big, you know, circle, such a good ripple effect that it keeps on adding and adding. So, you know, I'm just so excited about it.
Thank you, Soha. That's so true. So, unfortunately, we have to end. We are reaching our time. I know. We wish this will be longer, but I promise that from the Generation Change International Partnership Platform, we are going definitely to have a second part of this Generation Change International Conference, because it's so amazing. And my dog wanted to say goodbye too. So before we say goodbye, I will give each of you a few minutes to have to say a few words and to say goodbye. So I will start with Alexandria.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Laura, I completely agree. I just wanted to say I do also think NGOs are super important. I just want us all to also recognize the stuff that we already have within us and the passion we already have, and to use them as a wonderful amplifying tool. This was so wonderful. I'm so excited to meet all of you. And I think, yeah, if we can continue working together and moving forward together, it's super important. And I think recognizing that while we all come from different backgrounds, myself, I'm here today under working with the Youth, Peace and Security agenda, and recognizing how all of our different work ties into gender equality to push things forward together, I just think is very important. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can move forward from here, and not just saying, okay, we had the call, that was great, I'm going to go on my merry way, but what do we do next? How do we keep things going and building and pushing forward? So thank you so much for organizing this, and I'm so excited for the new platform that has been launched. Congratulations so much on all the work that went into that. It's very exciting to see, and really hoping all the best for it, and just can't wait to see what's going to happen next. So thank you so much from everyone. It was so great to hear from all of you.
Thank you, Alexandria. It was such an honor to have you here and to, to partner with the Canadian Coalition for Youth, Peace and Security. It's just been amazing. And I'm sure we will have more events in common in the future. So thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure. Next one is Lara.
Okay, thank you, Carlos, so much for organizing. Thanks, Generation. Thanks for organizing this amazing panel. Thanks to all the panelists. It was a really humbling experience. I learned a lot from all of you. I learned a lot from your realities. And the only message I really want to highlight, and I would like to people that were here to take with them, is that I really, really believe that courage, kindness, and solidarity are contagious. So just go ahead, just try to work with others, just try to connect, because when all the voices get together, it's impossible to stop them. Change is inevitable. So just that little ending message. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Lara. It was a truly pleasure to have you here, to know more about you and to know what's going on in Argentina. And as I said to Alexandra, I hope we can keep working together in future events, because it was great having you here. Next one is Saida.
Thanks, and thank you, Lara, for talking about change. It's such a good reminder that only constant is change, and it's uplifting to remember that. I just encourage all of us here to continue to remain connected. If you're interested in the CSW conference, that's just going to start in a few days. I'd encourage you to register if you haven't already. Did I mute myself? Sorry about that. Of course I did. I was just saying that I just dropped the link in the chat for the CSW conference. Would encourage you all to register if you would like to attend. And it's just been such a privilege listening to all of you, connecting with all of you. And I am really excited for whatever the future holds, and would just encourage everyone to remember about the intersectionality piece. We might be working on different issue areas. We might be interested in different topics. Somebody might be working on climate justice. Somebody might be working on political participation, but at the end of the day, there's a common thread of uplifting and amplifying gender equity, human rights. And as long as we remember that, we continue working in sisterhood, brotherhood, across our different intersections and identities, we'll eventually get there. We'll make some change together. But thank you, Carlos. And again, echoing the congratulations on the launch of this new platform. It's so, so exciting.
Thank you so much, Saida. It was a great pleasure and honor to have you here. The Young Leaders, thanks to the Young Leaders Young Professionals program, this is also possible. So thank you so much for the support, for the help, and for all the advices that you have given me for this. It's just amazing, and I hope, as I say to Alexandra and Lara, we can still working together in future events. Thank you so much. Next one is Soha.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I am so humbled, and it was such a great platform that in such little time we got to know so much about each other, about so many countries, what's happening, the stance of women in different countries. It was so, motivating for everyone. And in the end, I would like to give this message to everybody, to every woman, to keep working hard, to keep evolving, to keep growing every day, to keep learning something new, and to keep taking such small baby steps towards development, towards progress. And inshallah, one day we will be there, stronger and united very soon. So just keep, working on yourself, on whatever you're doing. Just keep doing it, and you will be good.
Thank you so much, Soha. It was such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. You know, as what I did with Lara, I'm very, very grateful that I actually connect with you both because you're just amazing, both of you. The work you do, you know, your knowledge and experience, it's just amazing. And I really hope that we can still work together in the future. So thank you so much, Soha, for your time for being here. Next one
Thank you.
is Next one is no other than one of my amazing co-chair for the Generation Change International Partnership Platform, Gillian Montilla.
So what I would have to say is that advocacy is not therapy. There are therapeutic, liberating, amazing sensations that you get from advocacy, but it's not therapy. We're doing this because we're in it to win it. We're in it to enlarge the space where we're allowed to exist freely. We're here to challenge the forces that try to create fear within us. And I think once we reframe it this way, I think that is a completely different fire that is going to fuel the work that we do. You are allowed to speak the way that you can. You don't need to learn and modify every single part of yourself and put your tongue into a white collar shirt and a suit for it to be taken seriously. But first you need to take yourself seriously. And I think that I count myself lucky to be able to be spending International Women's Day with such incredible people, with such incredible visions for the world. And I think that we're on the right track then. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gillian. And as I say to everyone else, it's just amazing to have you here, to come you in. It's great that you are the co-chair of the Generation Change International, because you know you're an amazing activist and advocate and artist. So thank you so much for your time, your work, and what you do. It's just very, very amazing, and I respect it a lot, and I admire it a lot. Last but not least is one of the most amazing women I have ever known, and she's Janae Osborne. She's an amazing, 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 amazing activist and advocate. And, you know, she's so amazing. I'm going to just let her to say her work because there's no word to describe how amazing she is.
Carlos, you are all too kind, but I will take it. No, thank you. I just have to say that I am absolutely honored to be in this platform with everybody. Every single solitary one of you has inspired me today with the work that I have done and will continue to do. You all leave me in awe. So I will leave you all with this. The theme of International Women's Day is Choose Challenge. And I encourage you all to challenge, collaborate, share, support each other, and grow. It is through collaboration, it is through discussion, it is through knowing that you are supported. We here at Generation Change International are here to support all of your ideas, all of your anxieties, all of your fears, and to know that you have us to advocate for you. So I ask you to please choose challenge and continue to grow with us.
Thank you so much, Janae. As I say to Gillian, you know, I'm very lucky to count you in with you and Gillian to be in Generation Change International. It's just a blessing. So thank you so much. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have ended our very first event. Generation Change International Conference has going to its end. Thank you so much to all the speakers who had the time to be here to share their opinion and knowledge. Thank you to Atika Scott, who have to leave earlier, but yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants that stayed up with us till the very end. Please reach out, Generation Change International. The links are on the chat. Stay tuned for future events because we are going to give you future events for you to speak, for you to have the opportunity to have a voice, for you to have the opportunity to be one day one of the speakers of the Generation Change International Conference Part 2. So thank you so much. It was such an amazing event, and I'm so happy and honored to be counting with all of you for this great conference. So nothing else, just happy International Women's Day to all these amazing, brilliant, incredible women who are working so hard to change the world and that are the representative of a generation of change. So thank you so much and see you in the next event. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.